Welcome to NYMLB Talk, New York's #1 baseball podcast. Now here's your hosts, Chris Pizzaya and Rob Maraska.
And welcome to a new episode of NYMLB Talk with your host, Chris. And, well, Rob's not here today. We have a special guest. We're going to get into him in a second. And if you're on YouTube right now, give us a follow. Give us a sub right now if you can. That would be great. If you love the show, hit that sub button. If you want to give us a follow on Twitter or TikTok or Instagram, we're on it all at NYMLB Talk as well. And you can follow myself at CP7NY. You got Rob at R Maraska as well. So we have a special guest today filling in for Rob. It's his cousin, Mr. Joe Dell, famous musician from Sleepy Hollow. And he's just a great artist, great musician overall. He's done our intro and outro music. Anyway, Joe, welcome again to the show.
Hey, Chris, a pleasure again, as always.
Yeah. You've been on before, so you're kind of like and you watch every show, so you're kind of part of the show anyway.
I'm your biggest fan.
Yeah. So anyway, before we're going to get into some music today, because Joe's here, he's a great guy to talk to about music, over 40 years of experience in music. So we're going to start with baseball. And unfortunately, both New York teams did not have a great weekend, right? The Yankees got swept in Miami. I really don't want to talk about it, but we're going to get into that a little bit. And also the Mets lost to San Fran 2 out of 3 over the weekend, which was tough for them as well because both teams made great trades at the trade deadline to improve especially their bullpen. They both picked up 3 relievers that were going to strengthen the bullpen, which it did. It didn't work out yet for the Yankees. And they also picked up a couple of bats as well. The Mets also picking up Cedric Mullin. Yankees, obviously, Ryan McMahon, Carabello from Tampa, and Rosario from Washington. So anyway, we'll get into the Mets a little bit. They lost to 2 out of 3. And the good thing, and it's also with the Yankees too, the good part of it is that we still got 50 games remaining. And the Mets are only, about a game out of first place. So it's not the worst thing in the world. But, you got all their big guns are the guys that are struggling. Like, forget about, who's batting 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th. Your top guys are really struggling, whether it's Lindor, Alonso struggling, and also Soto, right? Those are your big guns. No matter what the rest of the lineup does, if those guys don't produce, then the Mets aren't going to go too far when and if they get to the playoffs, obviously. So Joe, what do you think? Like, when you look at a team like the Mets and you look at what they've done already and what they're capable of, and you see, obviously, Juan Soto, what he's capable of. We've seen that last year when he was with the Yankees and his whole career, actually. But, like, what do you think's going on? Do you think it's just it's in the summer, they'll start to heat up, or why do you think they're struggling right now?
Well, the first thing I think is I chose the wrong career. But
yeah.
After that, 800 million, and you could get up and pop fly out. But
yes.
And you know what? Let's put it on the table. The Mets, they usually start to look the strongest near the end of the season. Usually end of August, September is when they start lighting up. Yankees are always steady. Like, it's the Yankees you don't worry about. Because I remember my granny said back when I was a kid, because she rooted for the Mets, and I asked her, I said, I'm like, Graham, you don't like the Yankees? She goes, oh, I like the Yankees, but the Yankees are going to win. But when the Mets win, it's something special. So, they're going to roll in through the end of the season. I think, a little stutter step here or there, they'll straighten out. No worries.
Yeah. I agree. I think the Mets and the Yankees, they both got the talent to be so much better than what they're doing now. Obviously, the Yankees, since June 1st, check this out. This is how, when you say, the Yankees are the Yankees, but yeah, the first half of the season before June 1st, they were 35-22, right? So that's 13 games above 500. Yeah. Since June 1st, okay, their record is 25-30. So they're 5 games below 500. That's not good. That's almost half a season that they're in this really bad stretch. I mean, and they need to wake up. I mean, this is a team that needs to wake up because the Mets have a little bit more of a playoff cushion, right? I think they're up by like 8 games in the wild card. So they're good they're second, but they still got some leeway to,
some elbow room. Yeah.
Right. The Yankees, on the other hand, they only got like 2 games now above the team that's not in the top team that's not in the wild card race right now. So they're in jeopardy of dropping out of, not just, they've already lost first place in their division. Now they're also in jeopardy of losing, a spot in the wild card.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if old George was still with us, half the team would have been gone by now. He wouldn't put up with that kind of stuff. But
no, definitely not. His son wants to be the total opposite of his dad, right? Hal wants to be the total opposite. He doesn't want to be the impulsive guy that, when things are going bad, I'm going to fire this guy. I'm going to trade this guy. This guy's going to the minor. He doesn't want to do that. He wants to be like, okay, steady the ship or whatever,
Iron fire a manager like 5 times. Like, how many times is Billy Martin, like the manager of the Yankees, on and off? It was
right.
At least 3, right? Or is it 5?
What?
Billy Martin. Like, he managed the Yankees like
5 times, and I think he was going to come back a 6th time if he doesn't pass away.
Yeah.
That was the plan.
That was all George. He was
impulsive is a nice way of saying what he was, and I know, like, a lot of the younger people only seen, like, maybe the 90s era of George Steinbrenner. They didn't see the 80s and late 70s, right? That was the crazy George Steinbrenner era. Yeah. And I always tell people, read, there's a book called The Last Lion of Baseball. That's a great book to read about Steinbrenner. And you could see the difference. I'm not saying he's all bad either, trust me. But you definitely have a good understanding of what we've seen every day, like in the 80s, the 90s, and before he got suspended. Like, it was just crazy times with the Yankees with George Steinbrenner. A lot of ups, a lot of downs, but yeah, definitely not. So my point is, with both teams, like, it's time to go now, right?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. After the All-Star break, it's time to go. Like, there's no more, it's only April, it's only May, it's only June, we'll be fine. Now it's August. So now you're, like, there's 50 games left. There's not 100 games left. I know the baseball season's a marathon, not a sprint. So, but now it's 50 games. So now you got to give us your best 50 games. And this is what every team wants. Every team wants to play their best the last month or so of the season going into the playoffs, right? So that's the good part.
Unless you're in the basement, and then they've given up.
It don't matter what you do, right? You can play great, but you still last. Like Colorado. Colorado's not concerned about how they play down the stretch.
No. So, probably more plans in the dinner they're going to eat than in the game.
Right. So exactly. So that's why. But now, like in New York, both teams got huge expectations, obviously, with the top payrolls in the game, right? Mets signing Juan Soto, making aggressive moves at the trade deadline, all that stuff. So they got high expectations. The Yankees always got high expectations, no matter what. So they're going in one of the highest payrolls. I mean, if they miss the playoffs, Boone has to go, right? They have to fire the manager if he doesn't make the playoffs. I mean, even you just made the World Series last year. You can't go from making the World Series to missing the playoffs the next year. I mean, that's impossible. So
it's embarrassing. You know what I mean?
It's very embarrassing.
Not going to be good at Christmas dinner.
No, I don't think so. I don't think that's going to go well. I know it ain't going to be good for me, but definitely not good for Aaron Boone. I hate to see people get fired, but listen, when the team is playing as bad as it is for 2 months now, like every team goes through a stretch, right? We say, baseball's up and down. It's a marathon. You're going to go through your rough patches, but now it's, since June 1st, they're below 500 team. They're not even a playoff team these last 2 months. I mean, they're playing horrible. They're making mental mistakes. It's just horrendous. So something's got to change. And, this week, this week they start playing. They're going to Texas, which is one of the better teams in the league. So we'll see how that goes.
Well, it's as it rolls. But I still think the Yankees are going to pull into row because, to give it to them, it's, Usually, the one thing about baseball, because you and I have been watching baseball for a while now,
Yep.
we're in the middle of the road, but like you always notice the teams always float in the same area throughout the season. Very rare does one go from the top to the bottom or from the bottom over to the top. You know what I mean? It's like they're going to float in those little areas. It's just like you said, it's those clutch games. You know, what are they going to do in the ninth inning? You know, what are they're going to pull it off? They got the lead by 1 run. They're going to give it up.
Right.
You know, but that's where you're at right now. But I said usually you'll know by the end of August. You know, if they're on a roll by the end of August, then you're going to carry through September. If they're struggling by the end of August, then you might have problems. You know,
I think so. Yeah, it goes for both teams, right? Because, like I said, the Yankees got no more cushion. They're like 2 games, right?
No.
The Mets have still a little bit of a cushion, but it goes away quick. You know, like you said, when other teams start playing well, you know, they might sneak up on you and pass you in the standings. So both teams got to really start, you know, playing better than what they have. You know, and the Yankees really, I mean, it's 2 months. It's now or never. I'm tired of hearing, everything's in front of us. You know, Boone's great. Boone would be a great politician, right? He's perfect. He's great. Everything's great. Don't worry about it. We're going to do this. You know, this team is good. This team is I know what they're capable of. You know, all this. I'm tired of it. I just tell me the team sucks right now. We need to play better and let's move on. And we are going to play better. Like, tell us the truth, right? Don't tell us the BS.
Yeah, we don't vote for you. You know what I mean? You don't have to.
Right, exactly.
Show. And it's like, I'm the type of sports fan, unless it's a huge lead, like I'm not comfortable. Like if it's like 10-2 in like the 8th, then I settle down a little bit. But other than that, it's like you've seen the comebacks.
Mm-hmm.
You know? And again, and we're not going to go in this department, but as a Jets fan, I've seen huge leads in the first 2 quarters that have disappeared by the 4th. So.
Yep. And that's what's happening with the Yankees, because they started off, you know, the first 2 months they were great, and now, you know, now it's like I said, it's 2 months now. 2 months they've been really bad, and you know, you understand a week or two, you go through like I said, the rough stretch, like the Mets. The Mets have had up and downs too, but they're steadily okay. The Yankees have been steadily declining the last 2 months. So we're really going to see what this team is these next few weeks. Like you just said too, by the end of August, you're going to know what your team is. So these next couple of weeks are going to really determine, you know, what the team is going to do, I think, in September. You know, I think Paul O'Neill said it during a Yankee telecast. He goes, your first half sets you up what you're going to do in the second half, right? It's going to set you up for winning the division, getting in the playoffs, whatever. So the Yankees have set themselves up because they're in the playoffs right now, but they're steadily on a decline and they've been playing bad. So we'll see what happens in these next couple of months. And, you know, with the Mets as well. Coming up, the Yankees, like I said, they got Texas coming up, and then they got Minnesota at home. Minnesota, they totally own. So if they lose to them, then there's a problem, because they've owned Minnesota for 20, 30 years. Like they've been and they've also gutted their team at the trade deadline too, Minnesota. But at the Mets, though, right now, they have coming up, they have Cleveland at home, which Cleveland has been kind of iffy this year. They should be able to beat them, but then after that, they have to travel to Milwaukee. Milwaukee's a really good team.
Yeah, Milwaukee's good.
Yeah, they've been hot of late too, so we'll see. It's a good litmus test in that series. That's going to be that could be a preview of a playoff series and all that. So we're definitely looking forward to that, and we'll get into more of that on Friday as well. I'm going to have a special guest on Friday because Rob will be on the high seas all week on a cruise. So
winning some money.
Yeah, he's definitely going to win money. That guy's
he got the luck in the family. Like me and my cousin Johnny always complain, like anything, you give 100 doors, 99 have $1 million. One has a man-eating lion. We'll open the one with the lion behind it. But like Rob will trip on something on the ground. He'll look down and be $20 bill waiting for him.
Yep. Like, that's Rob. So he'll be fine. Don't worry about it. He's coming back happy. Yeah. And it's good that he's away with the Mets losing this past weekend. So
that's probably why they are losing. You know what I mean? It's
he needs to come back, right?
It's helped them throughout,
Exactly. I think he needs to come back. So
yeah.
And like I said, we're gonna come back we'll be on Friday night, probably after the games around 10 o'clock. I have my good friend Lynn from the Pinstripe Chronicles. I've been on her show a few times, so it'd be great to have her come on here. And she's
So
been on here once before. So.
very knowledgeable. Very knowledgeable.
Yeah, Lynn's the best. We love Lynn. Love chat with Lynn. I always have a good time with her. So I'm looking forward to that. But anyway, with you on, I we could sit back and talk music now, and I really wanted to get your thoughts and your perspective about Ozzy Osbourne passing away, because as a fan, I could say, yeah, we loved him as a fan and all that, but to hear your words, because you're a musician, how much he influenced you and all that. So what are your thoughts about Ozzy passing away?
Words couldn't even express. It was sad. I can't, because when you're on Facebook, I'm not a big Facebooky person or, type of thing, but like you go on and people like show footage of Ozzy walking with the cane. And it's like, I'm an Ozzy fan from back. Like I go back to Diary of a Madman. That's where, and I'll be honest with you, like I don't get nostalgic over much. I do over the 86 Mets. I remember Anthony the other night saying, he's like, I know that line up front to back. Even to this day, I could probably, I could give you the line. I remember Keith Hernandez on first, Tim Tuffle and Wally Backman on second, Santana shortstop. We had Ray Knight, then Hojo would bounce around in that corner there. We had George Foster for the first half of the season, and then came in afterwards. We had Mookie Wilson, Dykstra in center field, Strobe. I mean, for us Met fans, that 86 year was just gold. Like, I've never had, for me as a Ranger fan, the 94 was a good year too, but like that 86, it was the perfect age too. I was from like going from 12 to 13, like just couldn't ask for better. So, but the same thing with the Ozzy is like, I get like to this day, if I see anything from that Diary of a Madman era, the pictures, it's my all-time favorite album to this day. Mm-hmm. And even as a kid, I was in grammar school when it came out, and it was like I remember seeing it in I think the Acme in town, where like it was like all the records, because my family, like my family were jocks. It's funny because I'm a musician and people always thought my family were musicians, and it's like no, they were jocks. Like Rob likes telling the old story about my father trying out for the Yankees back in '62, which I thought about today. Did Thurman Munson get the job? Was that when he came in?
What, as manager?
No, as the catcher.
Oh,
my father was trying out for catcher when Yogi Berra was retiring. So, and he overslept for the tryout. That's the story Rob always tells. But I'm like, was it Thurman Munson that came in at the 62?
I think he was a little past that 62. Thurman was, I'm going to say 69.
He did come in a little later.
Yeah, I think so. Or 68. I could be wrong.
That's before I was born, but I was like, yeah.
69 was his first year.
Okay, because I was going to say, because it was Thurman Munson, because it was a tragedy he died, but my father always looked forward to dying. That was his thing. So it's like, if he could have became a Yankee and then died, like my father would have had his dream life he ever wanted. But
yeah,
but back to the Ozzy, it's like, no, but like I got in, and it's like, and people don't understand about the Ozzy era back then. He wasn't the cool, lovable madman, Prince of Darkness that they knew from like the 90s. Like when you were I remember going to church and having the kids, and they're talking grammar school, the 80s, early, mid 80s. They're like, you're a devil worshiper because you listen to Ozzy. You know what I mean? I had to hear it. I'm like, no, I really don't worship the devil. And it's like,
the music is really good. So
yeah. Like Randy Rhoads was classically trained. You know that. It's like
right.
But it's like the story. It's like this is the thing. Like let's bring the younger group of people back to the old days before the internet. Before everything was like 6 o'clock news. You had an hour worth of time, and if you missed it, that was it. Like there was no newspaper article.
It's true.
And I remember my cousin Jillian. She was like another one with when she became an Ozzy fan, it was like, people don't understand. Like you put a mark on yourself,
Oh yeah.
I remember she would tell me the story. Like she's like, how could you like animals if you like Ozzy? He sawed the legs off a Doberman pitcher on stage. And again, it's like pre-internet, so it wasn't like when well, let me go look. What was it? Philadelphia? You know, the Spectrum.
Yeah, no, you couldn't do right. You couldn't do that back then. So if someone told you, oh, he ripped the head off a bat, you're like, okay, I guess he did, right?
Yeah. And unfortunately, he had a couple of real stories hidden in there. So
right.
like, the thump and the bat were real. So then I guess that opened the passageways to everything beyond that. But I remember even like fans were like, I remember my friend Rich Torrey, he was like, he told me, he's a fellow Met fan, but he told me that he's like one day, because we were like kids, he's like, yeah, he goes, I heard he blew up a pig on stage. And it's like, because I don't know if people knew back in '82, the whole thing they did was like, he would tell people, they had a catapult on stage, and like they tell people to bring meat or whatever to the show. And, they would catapult it, like, they take it on stage, and like, I guess the roadies, whatever, stick it in the catapult and they shoot it back to the crowd. Yeah. WBK. And it's like, but so like, that little touch of, doing things like that would lead to like all these big stories, which was great for him in a sense of like, became a household.
Oh yeah. And this too, like years ago when they put that, when they put the warning labels on the CDs and the albums, that was the greatest thing for musicians, because now as a kid, like now you look at stuff like, oh, that's bad. All right, I'm gonna definitely listen to that. Right, if there's curses on that.
Yeah.
Oh, you tell me not to listen to that? Yeah. Oh, okay. I'm definitely gonna listen to that Ozzy album or that Metallica album or whatever. Right. So it's great.
It's like the only thing was like a heads up. Like it was almost like telling like the criminals, like when the security guard is going to be in front of the bank. It's like warning. All right, so I don't play this one in front of mom. Like
right. That goes on. So. Yeah, it's pretty amazing. And even like Kiss went through that too at the beginning, right? It was all about the Knights in Satan's service, right? And Kiss was just Kiss. Yeah. But they didn't say anything. It was just like, let it go, Do
you remember the Gene Simmons tongue story that we used to hear back when we were kids?
Oh, that he had surgery, right? Or something to extend it?
He cut the tongue off a baby and sewed it on the tip of
his tongue. Some crazy stuff.
And it's like, and the thing is, like, people bought into this. That was the entertaining part, you know? But
and that's the bad thing. Like bands now can't do that because, like you said, you could just go on the computer and just say, oh, they said this. Oh, let me check. No, they didn't do that.
Yeah. And Ozzy even said that somewhat recently. He said, that's the thing. He goes back with Randy. He goes, it was mysterious. You know what I mean? There was an aura about it, whatever. And but it's like nowadays everything's out there, and it's like it takes that fun away because there was fun because. I have a warped sense of humor to an extent, like not demented, but warped, And it's like, I love that kind of stuff because like, to me, I always thought things that are humorous is when people believe something so far out that it's not real, but they think it is real. To me, I think that's the most humorous thing that you could get.
Yeah. TBK was 100% right about years ago. Now, I don't think it's as good, right? The bad press you get, with all this stuff going on, I think it's the complete opposite. I don't think it's a good thing anymore. But with Ozzy and with anybody back then, and the rumors could have swirled, like you said, we could go on about Kiss, Ozzy, and I don't know. Someone said it. One of their tributes to Ozzy was basically Ozzy was the original. Like there was nobody before Ozzy that he was like, okay, I'm going to be like this guy. I'm going to be like this crazy guy on stage, running back and forth, throwing buckets of water at people, like he did. Like there was no other Ozzy. Like now, like think about how many musicians he's influenced over the years. Like I don't think anybody, not just Ozzy, but Black Sabbath in general, I don't think a band or a guy has influenced more other musicians than him.
Oh, not at all. Just what he was a part of. Like just to say what you could go anywhere, even up to the Zakk Wylde era, to be honest. Like, it's just, no doubt. Whatever. He was specially blessed, no doubt, because, let's put it this way. Us fans know that, excuse me, he's no Satanist. You know what I mean? If you go back to the old songs like After Forever, that's as Christian as you could get,
Right.
More Christian than that. Spiral Architect, another, I think to me, that's the most beautiful song ever written in rock. I love that. So, I mean, I'm biased, but still, I challenge it. Like, this is what they were. And it's like, but everything they touched was gold. Like,
yeah. And you remember War Pigs, that's really an anti-war song.
Yeah.
But it was never perceived as that, obviously, right? Because how can a Satan, worshiping bands come out with a song that is anti-war, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah. Well, no, it was utilized to promote anything. It's like, is it? Ozzy wanted to be a friggin' Beatle, then turned around and went, and you know what? Let me just go ahead
create
and
a whole genre of music. He did. Black Sabbath basically created heavy metal, right? There was nothing before that.
You can't listen. There's roots because it's like I put a couple videos up on my thing like years ago, like the roots of metal, like sound and everything. There's like you could see the building because you had Frank Zappa, who are the Brain Police, which there's some like heavy sound in that, which I think's a bass. I can't even determine it, but that was just one little segment of a song, or or Floyd would have like Interstellar Overdrive, and these bands have these. Sabbath was the first one. You bought the album from front to back. It's heavy, like you know what I mean. They gave you, and that the title track of Black Sabbath was just like. That's the thing. So much music has roots, classical, blues, jazz, but there's certain moments, like I don't care what they want to call Black Sabbath, like, well, it's blues, it's this, that's its own thing. They made something out of nothing, where you just listen to it. It's and to me, that's special. But look at all the bands they touched. Like they opened for them. Kiss opened for them. Aerosmith opened for them. Ted Nugent opened for them. Van Halen opened for them. You're talking bands that like just dominated eras. And then when he went solo, Motorhead, the band that started thrash metal. You'd have no thrash if it wasn't for Motorhead.
Yep.
Then you had Def Leppard. Remember how big they were in the 80s, right? They were like, I think they were the biggest, like by that Hysteria album, there was like 11 million sold, 9 million.
Oh, that album was huge,
Ridiculous. That was the first album where every song was like a hit single, I think.
Yeah, basically.
But it's like then they had what was it? Motley Crue. They made
that's legendary, man. That tour is legendary.
I got every magazine that year. 84 was it? 83, 84. It was 80 because it came out late 83, I think. Yeah, 84 was the tour. I got every magazine and every story you read. It was just that kept you going. It was like a soap opera. Like they don't understand that. Like I said, we got the internet back then. You had to get Hip Parade or Cream, what was the Circus, and you read these stories like Motley Crue did this, Ozzy did that, Motley Crue did. And it's like it was worth the $1.50 you paid. Yes, boys and girls, we paid $1.50 for this stuff back then.
I know, not anymore.
You
get a comic book for $1.50 anymore. I don't think.
No. Back then you had a paper out, you bought this stuff. Now you need to own the newspaper itself.
Yeah.
But but it was like then you got Metallica comes along, and it's like and then Queensryche, Anthrax. I mean, you just go to the list.
Yeah.
Korn, I know. Pantera opened for Sabbath when they did the reunion. I mean,
then you had Ozfest. You had a whole. Right, you had that whole thing, Ozfest, for a few years too.
Yeah.
So it's amazing how much he's influenced music. Right, him, Black Sabbath, and then of course his solo stuff. Just countless countless bands, musicians that he's influenced.
And it's like Ozzy, and the thing is, what Ozzy is that people perceive him as like, because he had a sense of humor, the wackiness, but he was an artist. You know what I mean? Like a lot of stuff, like they said, he came with the vocal melody lines, productions he did, like on especially the Blizzard of Oz, the Diary. It's like. Yeah. It's like he was deeper. Like he was good friends with Rick Wakeman. He appreciated Rick Wakeman's keyboard playing. Like Ozzy didn't like the keyboard players he would get. That's why he always stuck them in the back. He's like, they're more like technicians because to him, if they didn't play like Rick Wakeman, they don't get to go on the stage. So
right.
But the thing is that like it's like what he wasn't basic. And the funny part is, I remember seeing an interview with him, and they asked, I think it was Don Costa. I think it was Bob Costa. Bob Costa. Bob Costa. I forget. He did. Don Costa was his bass player. Bob Costa's the guy doing the interview.
Right. Yeah. A little different.
Yeah, a little different. And he goes, and he goes, Bob Costa goes, when you're at home, he goes, what do you listen to? He's like, you listen to your own music, which is a funny thing because me being a musician, I know, like, no. Like, for me, I don't even listen to my own stuff till like 10 years later. Like, I have to be like so detached from it. But he's like, Genesis and Pink Floyd. That was his answer.
Right.
Listens to Genesis and Pink Floyd. And that's progressive art music. So you got to have some depth to you to listen to that stuff.
Yeah.
I always thought it was ironic that Def Leppard started heavy. That's
and then went glam.
was the best TBK. Yeah, The first Def
there you
Leppard
go.
Through the Night, like that was straight up metal.
Oh yeah.
Like I mean, when the walls came tumbling down, Wasted, love that song. You know,
Yeah, those first couple of albums were great. But you know what? Hysteria was unbelievable. Like you said, sold 12 million copies. You know, like the whole album was hits basically. Just a unbelievable album. After that, they really went. I mean, not just glam, but more almost like pop metal on some of their albums.
Rick lost one of his arms, so I guess he couldn't drum like he used to.
Yeah, that might have had something to do with it. You know,
I found out recently, which I can't even listen to anymore. Wasted is a great song. Is that the Pyromania is all drum machines. There's no drumming on it.
Oh,
Mutt Lang did like drum programming for that, and it's like that's why at the end of the album you hear that weird drum programming loop. But like,
yeah.
And I'm like, now I hear it, and I'm like, oh, because as a kid you can't. I mean, I was a little kid when it came out, but like now I'm going like,
let me ask you, like you were in Sleepy Hollow. Like, how was Sleepy Hollow? How was Sleepy Hollow's music influenced at all by Black Sabbath and Ozzy and all that?
God, I bought my first keyboard because of Ozzy. Like Mr. Crowley. Like I remember my neighbor got that for her birthday, like back when we were kids, and she's playing the album. The funny part is like this is the old days because I didn't have the lyric sheet. I remember hearing the song, and I thought it was like my mother was babysitting for her. She was my neighbor, so I give her a cassette tape, and I go, Ma, ask Evelyn to record that Mr. Trowley song for me. I know you're singing Mr. Trowley throughout the whole thing, but I remember that like keyboard intro, Don Airey did. And I got a funny story with Don in a second, but like I was in the 80s, and anybody who knows me, they would tell you I was probably the biggest Ozzy fan in New Jersey, if not the country. I had like rare stuff from anything with his name on it, I would get. I mean, I loved Ozzy, like both Sabbath and solo. And yeah, as far as that, Mr. Crowley was like set me off. And I got a paper route soon after, and I bought my first keyboard and started my first band back in 85 or whatever. But yeah, I'll tell you one thing. So after he died, I actually prefer Pantera more in the glam era. I feel it showed off times actually really. Yeah, it's true, DBK. Like I would say somewhere in the middle, but yeah, like the way it became more rhythm orientated. But what do you call it? And Ozzy had a huge fan base everywhere.
Yeah, it's amazing, right? Especially in the early days. I'm sure he got out there, like the word of Black Sabbath and touring out there too. I'm sure it's just amazing how big they got.
And I tell you, I remember even like I tell the story. I remember learning who Sabbath was when I was 5 years old because my mother would, my mother was a Brooklyn girl, so we would take the bus to the plaza over here in Jersey. And I remember sitting at the bus stop and I saw Black Sabbath written like in a cross. And I'm like, because you're waiting for the bus, you got nothing else. This is the old days. We didn't have cell phones to stare at, so you
right.
You read graffiti on the side of the bus stop. And I'm going, who's Black Sabbath, Ma? And she's like, it's a rock and roll group. And the funny thing is, when I got into Ozzy, I didn't know he was the singer of Sabbath. I bought the Speak of the Devil album, and I thought, which Rob was actually DJing at, but I bought it when I got it. I thought those were Ozzy songs, and I'm like, and I'm looking at the old days you had the big album and you read everything, and it had like the writing credits. I'll tell you, get the pictures. I'm going to say something funny, but if you look at the one in the middle at the top. Like I remember we did photo shoots, and the thing is, and again, I explained this to the kids today, which I have no concept of. We couldn't stand posers back in the day. I couldn't stand posers. As a musician, I can't stand posers. I don't like any poser. I don't like Cinderella or Bon Jovi or any of that crap they try to call some kind of metal, which it isn't. Because heavy metal, the roots of heavy metal go back to the hard rock and the prog rock of the 70s, which led into today. But so like the thing is like. I hated photo shoots because to me that was like a poser thing. Like I never liked standing and
Yeah, no, I know, but it's part of the thing, right? It's part of the gig.
So we did the photo shoots, you see, and it's like I just wanted it just to be different. So like I'm wearing a fedora hat, I got aviator glasses on, and I'm wearing like some camouflage jacket, and it's like I didn't do it to stand out. It's just like that's who I was because once it became an in thing. Did I mention I live on a main street? But,
No, not at all.
but yeah, that's heavy metal. But
there you go.
So it's like that's where, like, and I remember I never liked doing these photo shoot things or whatever, and it was like they always had to twist my arm, and we always go to some like weird obscure area of like some cemetery or some like abandoned like stone building. But yeah, it's like because like
there you go. Look at that.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Hey, yeah, the diary shirt. Yeah, my all-time favorite album to this day. And I'm going to speak as a musician, as like, because after Ozzy died, I went, that night. I mean, I was very upset, and I went and threw Diary on, and the next night I threw Blizzard. When Blizzard of Oz came out, and this is for people like non-musicians, they hear stuff, something sounds fast, they think it's harder to do, whatever. Right. Blizzard of Oz was more progressive than even what the prog bands were doing around that era. Like more than Rush, more than Tull or Genesis or Yes or anything. Like musically speaking, that Blizzard of Oz album was groundbreaking. And to this day, it's still one of the great, that and Diary are two of the greatest albums ever musically, composition-wise, musicianship-wise. Like people don't even understand like how amazing that those two albums were, and those were influenced. Like that was my problem, It's sort of like the first girlfriend you have is Cindy Crawford, and then like what happens when you date another one? It's like for me it was like the first albums I got in with those two Ozzy, so it's hard to find something to top that. If you're starting there, where do you go from there?
Yeah, exactly.
Randy Rhoads.
It's when you start from the top like that, it's tough,
Yeah. It's like, well, I tell you this, first money of my own I ever spent was on Blizzard of Oz, still one of my best albums today. Here's the question, boys. Ozzy's best or your favorites guitar? Oh, come on. That's not even a question.
Yeah, it's got to be Randy, right?
Listen, don't embarrass the boy. Take that question out. Fucking, it's not. Randy was brought up. His mother had. Of course, yeah. I think he was being cute about it, but like no, like his mother.
And it's no disrespect to the other guys, right? No. I mean, they're great in their own sense. I mean, Jakey Lee was great. Zach Wilde. I've seen him live a few times, and he's just unreal.
Listen, any band would count themselves lucky to get any of those guys, even Brad Gillis. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But it's like Randy, his mother owned a music school. How are you going to top that? You're brought up in a music school. You're the best. Randy's the best ever. And I don't care. It drives me nuts with these like, Randy versus Eddie Van Halen. Eddie Van Halen, God rest his soul, don't even come close to Randy. I'll tell you who Eddie Van Halen was. And you want to talk from a musician. I'm going to tell you musician standpoint. Dude, and even my friend who passed away recently, he played guitar. He talked to Kelly Rhodes, and he goes, listen, your brother was the best. He goes, I prefer Eddie Van Halen, but he goes, I could play Eddie stuff. He goes, I can't play your brother's stuff. Wow. Eddie came out of the starting gate strong, okay? He had an amazing, unique sound. He made all the other sounds sound stale. But when Randy came out, what Randy was doing musically, Eddie Van Halen couldn't even do. And it's like, and it bothers you because you hear like Eddie say stuff in interviews like, oh, Randy took from me. No, he didn't take from you. He just saw that that's what the kids liked. So Randy's like, all right, I'll do like, But the thing is too, to anybody who doesn't play the instrument, I'll tell you now, tapping a triplet out or arpeggio is a lot easier because all you're going is off the frets. You do learn to do that. You do it anywhere. Randy would pick out the arpeggios and triplets, which is a lot harder to pick them out than to tap it. So what Eddie was doing was a lot easier. It was flash, but it's like technically speaking, no. What Randy did was it. But back to the question, it's like as you can probably see from the imagery, that's Sabbath and Ozzy influence right there from just my bands or whatever, because the music always did was dark. I'm just gonna throw a quick thing out there for anybody who wants to, because I was a guest on a show called The Sabbath at Midnight with Lionel Tavares. And I tell he wanted to hear my supernatural stories because I was brought up my house was haunted. My house I was brought up in was built on top of an old cemetery. So that being there, of course, I was drawn to all the dark music because, I witnessed a lot of weird stuff back then, and if you want to hear those stories, check that episode out. But yeah, so I got my first keyboard. I started my first band when I was 11 years old. And then I danced around with some other instruments. And then I just was brought back to the keyboard again, which was actually because of John Lord. You know, I remember hearing the beginning of Lazy, and I was like, no, I'm a keyboard player. And that's when I went back into that. And I'll tell the Don Airy story I was going to tell. So back, I was doing the Metal Hall of Fame, the first one in 2017. I went out to help my friend Pat with it. And I pretty much, was running the first one. And Don Airy happened to be there, and I got to meet him and talk to him. And I told him, I go, Don, I go, you're the reason I bought my. I go, you're the reason I became a keyboard player. And he said, knee jerk, he goes, don't blame me. And I was like, I thought that was great because it's like, yeah, being a rock keyboard player, no, that's not you're not getting too much glory doing that. Yeah, it's.
So you mentioned the Metal Hall of Fame. Tell us about the shirts you designed for them. I'm actually wearing the New York one.
Yes, Chris, and I appreciate that.
And it's a great shirt. Trust me, this is not a cheap made shirt. It's actually a really good shirt, and I love the design. The back is the logo of the Metal Hall of Fame. So what's your tell us the whole story about how you got involved with them.
Well, it's a long story. I'll shorten. Back in 2010, I met Pat Gesualdo, who owns the Metal Hall of Fame, and he called me up because I was freelancing. Sleepy Hollow just did the Legend album. We did our last album, and and we got good write-ups, by the way. If you look at the Dutch Progressive Rock pages, they gave us a 9 out of 10 and said, return your Big Elf album, get this one. It's my top 5 of the year. So we came off of that, which we were doing pretty good for an underground band. And so he contacts me and asks if I could do a project with him because his ancestor's a classical composer. And he's like, can you transpose it? Because BMG and Sony both want to do a project, blah, blah, blah. So I was like, yeah, sure. It was like for charity. It was going to be a 2-year world tour or whatever. And then I got into a car accident. I had my neck broke. I went through a windshield and all that. So, I never made the tour. Oh, there's the one that Chris has. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. The Statue of Liberty holding the induction statue.
Yep.
But, so we ended up staying friends and all. And then it came to 2016 where we was discussing doing the Metal Hall of Fame, blah, blah, blah. And, we did the first one, like I said, and I went out to help him run it. And we had like Randy Rhoads' brother and sister. We had Ross the Boss. We had Kerry King from Slayer was there. And I'll tell you a funny story from the first one, which was great. So, inducted all these people. We had Mickey D was there. I think he was in the Scorpions at the time. Mickey D was in Motorhead and King Diamond back in the day.
Yeah, unbelievable.
Yeah, like these are all guys I saw live, big fans of, grew up. So I had to get Mickey to go for the autographs. So I go into the VIP where everybody's sitting. I mean, Wendy Dio, Ronnie James Dio's wife, we're talking like royalty in metal, like there, right? So I, in the old days in high school, like I always had this thing where I loved just slamming the doors open. I kind of loved it. Like I like the big bam sound or whatever, Hold that question 1 second, TBK. I'll answer in a second. So I come in and I was like, I come walking in, I'm like, boom, and I bash the doors, they bang. Everybody in the VIP, I'm talking Rudy Sarzo, is like all these, the whole room goes quiet.
Wow.
And Lemmy, from Motorhead, Lemmy Kilmeister's manager goes, now that's an entrance. And they all start applauding and I start bowing. And it was so humorous because I'm like, wow, look at this. Like all these people I grew up like looking up to, listening to, going to see live, and they're all applauding me. And it was all,
there you go. That must have been awesome.
humorous play. Yeah, it was. It's like I'd rather have been on a stage, but like, yeah, I'll take it. It's.
So here's TBK's question. What's outside of Sabbath? Who else was Sleepy Hollow's inspirations?
And more personal. Okay, let's go now. As far as me, like I did to really get roots. I started off as grew up in an mostly Italian family, little Irish, but like, the old Italian guys love listening to the jazz. So I started, listening to, Brubeck, McCoy Tyner, Thelonious Monk and all. So I dug jazz. I love the improvisational. Classical Bach, the Toccata Infusion D minor. I played that live a bunch of times, but like, so I like the dark classical. I like the the jazz, the feel, the improv. So that was it. My father was a rock and roll guy. My mother listened to folk, some R&B in there, Motown. So I got like, a lot in fusion growing up. But then like first AC/DC, they were the first, right before Ozzy. And then Judas Priest, believe it, as a keyboard player, believe it or not, it's like, because like I play, people heard me play. I don't just play like, I don't hold chords. Like heavy sound, I play, but like I'm inspired by different people. Metallica. Like if I could build my ultimate band, like for me, if I personally grab famous people, I would have Randy Rhoads on guitar, Cliff Burton on bass, Neil Peart on drums, and I'd have Rob Halford on vocals. If I build my own band.
There you go.
As far as, like Ozzy was my favorite, but like if I had my band to do, like that's who I would build it through. But Deep Purple, definitely. John Lord was a big influence, of course. Rick Wakeman, who was on the Bloody Sabbath album. Keith Emerson, Raven Zarek was a big influence, keyboard for me personally. I'll throw him out. Little Freddie Mercury, little Dennis DeYoung, not big, but some stuff they did influence me. Tori Amos, believe it or not, I like some of her stuff, like some dark stuff, but and John Evan from Jethro Tull. And I want to throw something out there while we have the metal going. The biggest crock, okay, everyone talks about how, Jethro Tull beat Metallica, but which I understand because the Tull album that year shouldn't have won anything in that category because The Crest of a Knave is far removed. But if you go back to Aqualung, Dick as a Brick, like the early Tull stuff, Tull is as much roots of metal as any other. Tull is more metal than Zeppelin ever was. Anybody who, because even if you see, there's an interview, Lars Ulrich says that even back in the early day, Cliff Burton would preach Jethro Tull, like to the band, like wave the flag, I think he said, because like there's some Tull, and I think Kirk Hammett's a huge fan. I seen an interview recently, and Ozzy even said that if it wasn't for Tull, Sabbath probably wouldn't even exist. Because if people don't know, if you go back to 1968, Tony Iommi joined Jethro Tull when Tull lost their first guitar player, Mick Abrahams. And they were on the Rolling Stones Rock and Roll Circus, which I had footage of, and I didn't even know it was Tony. He was like, had some white fringe, because you see Tony in black, whatever. And he's like, but he's playing lefty. And I was like, I didn't realize the first Tull guy played lefty. And then when I found out years later, that's Tony Iommi, I'm like, no way. I'm like, footage of Tony and that's like gold, that. But and he said the story, like if anybody read Ozzy's book, what was it? Not Don't Blame Me. That was a video. Just Say Ozzy. He said what Sabbath would do, in the old day, they would drive around in their van with their instruments and try to find like venues where like guys didn't show up so they could like fill in last minute. And he said it actually worked, Anyone ever told you slightly resemble Kirk Hammett, Joe? Yes.
Yeah, a little bit. You're right. You know what? Now that you said it, I see it now.
It's the gray hair. Once we went, when we weren't gray, me and Kirk didn't look that much alike. But yeah,
right.
It tends to melt us all together.
And it's kind of funny that Jethro Tull won the first ever metal Grammy, right?
Yeah, and it's like, but they didn't beat it that year. Like Metallica really should have won it, but
of course.
but here's the thing: real metalheads really don't care about award shows at all.
Yeah, of course not. Yeah,
at all. Like whoever votes, and we don't care because everything that's good came from the underground. Everything, right. Iron Maiden, Metallica, you name it. It was on some like unknown label at first, and they had to like Metallica. Every label got shot down with Johnny Z. So the industry people are idiots, morons. I can't say enough bad about it. The old cream rise to the top. In the industry, the crap rises to the top because it's everything they put out there has always been garbage. Even in my favorite, the best era anyway, 67 to 73, when a lot of great music came out. People came from the underground because back then they were pushing bubblegum stuff like, Paul Revere and the Raiders, right. And, that kind of, all those kind of bands. And it's like, that's underground. You had Hendrix, whoever was, like stuff like that coming out from, even the Doors, whatever. But back to the Tull thing. So the thing is, Sabbath was, they would do that. And they said the first time it worked was Tull didn't make it. Their bus broke down. So they got to play a gig covering for Tull. And Ozzy said when Tull walked in, he saw in the back, Ian Anderson was like banging his head, tapping his foot to their music. He goes, right. that was one of the biggest compliments he had, watching Ian Anderson get into Sabbath. So that's the thing they don't understand. Like Tull, like in the early day, like if you listen to that live album they put out in '78, you hear Iron Maiden all over it. I mean, Iron Maiden covered Cross-Eyed Mary.
Yeah.
You know? So it's like, that's why when people think, like, you know, if you go to the album they want it for, no. But go back to the 60s and 70s, and
maybe it was kind of like a way of honoring them in a strange way, but still, I know they shouldn't have won it. No,
wrong time. Yeah, it just did. That's something they should have had 10 years earlier. Then it would have made sense. That would have fit.
So, Lizard, before we go, we got to talk about your music, right?
Okay.
You as a solo artist, you have a Patreon page. I'm going to post it up. Just tell people about your music, and what to.
Well, it's the thing is now it's like it's so hard for musicians to even make money anymore. Yeah. Because of what things are set up. Like I get periodical royalty checks for like $100 for, you know, streams and downloads or whatever, but we're getting nothing. And only that, you don't know where, you know, you can have 1 million downloads and they'll tell you got 1,000. How do you know? You know what I mean? Like, you don't know, because it's digital. There's no product. There's nothing physically being sent in return. So we could be going for a ride with these people. So I'm just trying to start this, and I'm hoping other musicians will too. You know, true musicians, like people who really worked hard. I mean, people don't get it. Like, to play the way I do, at one point, I threw out my TV, sold my computer, gave away my car, so I had no distractions, and I was practicing 11 to 13 hours a day for like 3 years.
Wow.
To play the way I do. Like, it's not, you know, it's you know, because I know non-music, because I know a friend of mine, he thought Billy Joel and Keith Emerson were the same level. And I'm just like, no. You know, and I like both of them, but no. And it's like, you know, you have to sacrifice your life to do this. This is what I did. Like I was going to college at one point, and I decided to drop out to become a professional piano player, keyboard player, because at the time, studio music, I was majoring in law, minoring in music. And at the time, a lawyer and a studio musician were making the same exact amount of money, $500 an hour. So to me, I'm like, one, which harder to accomplish? The piano, so there's going to be less competition, you know, and then, you know, as far as the law, you know, it's you know, and I could do it on my own. I don't go to school, you know, I teach myself and do it, and I did, and that's why. So now I'm selling my songs on there, you know. I mean, I got a bunch of them put together. The new song, Hawk Song, is a Christian song that I put, that's, you know, for $3. I released nowhere else. You can't get it on iTunes, anywhere else, because now I want to try to detach. You know, if I got to be the first to do it, you know, I'm going to do it, because the industry has too much control and they're ruining music. Like Chris and I were talking earlier, you know, off the air. It's like the music is horrible. Like anything, it's hamster wheel. It's the same stuff over and over. It's redundant. There's not, like Blizzard of Oz, that came from nowhere. If you listen to that Blizzard of Oz album, you could go and, you know, in the past, you might hear.
There's nothing, right. I know what you mean. Exactly.
That's what music did. Like, it was supposed to be, you took all your influences and you created your own sound and you became this new entity. That's why in the old days, you got crucified. Like Kingdom Come, they got too much close to Zeppelin. Everybody hated them at one point. They're like, they think they're Zeppelin, they suck. You know, if you sound like someone. And I'm going to tell a story, and I try to make it as quick as possible because I know it's limited time for the show. But when we put the EP out, okay, my friend Errol Mars, who's an actor, was in a movie with Mahershala Ali. You know, Mahershala Ali got a bunch of Oscars a few years back. And one of the directors of like Jurassic World, the series or something, like they did a movie called Making Revolution. He liked my song Too Late. He wanted it in the movie, so he asked us to make, like, you know, record it. So we did like 4 songs. We figured, let's get more theatrical stuff, whatever, and let's put it in there. So we recorded it. By the time it was done, it was too late, no pun intended. And we decided, I might as well release it. You know, it was like late 2000, mid 2000, and we're like, we'll release it, whatever, put an EP out. So we sent press kits out, shot down. And I'm just going like, you know, it's like, you know, if you're asking girls out and eventually you're going like, what's wrong with me? Like, maybe I can figure out what's wrong with me by asking a girl why I'm getting shot down. So I called up a management company, I think, like, you know, all the big ones, whatever. So I call up, I speak to this lady. I go, hello, Joe Dell, Sleepy Hollow. She's like, I remember you guys. And I was like, yeah. I go. She goes, I listened to your EP. I go, we got rejection. I go, we got a rejection letter, you know? And she's like, yeah, the industry isn't really looking for anything like you guys right now. I go, why? We're no good? She goes, oh, no, you guys are really good. That's what she said. You guys are really good. I go, right. And I go, but then why don't you want us? She goes, well, because they're looking for the next Metallica, the next Pearl Jam, because this was like 2000, right?
Yeah.
And I go, why not the first Sleepy Hollow? Like,
right.
Right. And it's like, that's what they, you know, so this is where we're at now. And this is why I'm selling my music. If you join the Patreon, I'm going to start putting more of our stuff up. I'll loop a bunch of songs together. If you get one track, you know, it's like, it's a bunch of songs on one track, because now you can just move. You know, it's not like the old days with cassette tapes where you had to like fast forward or rewind and find the, you know, the groove. So you got it on there, and I'm selling them for cheap, $3, whatever. And it's like, you know, let the artists make the money. I missed it, or I may have missed it already, but what genre was it, Sleepy Hollow, would you say, Joe, if you had to put a label on it? Just curious. You can't. That's why they didn't want us.
There you go.
We said we were all over the EP alone. The first song was like a hard rock, like an 80s hard rocker type of song. You would say probably, I don't know, kind of Kiss, Def Leppard-ish, you know, maybe.
Where can you find Sleepy Hollow music now? Can you buy, you know, can you find the CDs on Amazon or something, or? Probably
the collectibles now. They're the vinyl. I remember we had a limited edition 45 that glows in the dark.
Oh, nice.
Lantern. Yeah. We sold like one of them for like $100 at one point, but like,
wow.
Honestly, I'm going to probably put it on my Patreon page, get people download it here, because we sold out of everything. We sold 3,000. This is by ourselves. You know what I mean? This isn't like, you know, backed by anything. We don't have mommy and daddy money either. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, everything was done on our own. 3,000 of the CD, 700 of the vinyl of the EP. We sold about 1,000 of each of the other albums. The Going Over, the Lazarus, the Legend, which I said we got great write-up on the Dutch Progressive Rock pages, which is the, you know, prog thing. But the thing is, like, I don't know if you want to categorize this. The EP alone, the first one, like I said. Second one, Too Late. It's kind of got a jazz reggae fusion feel to it, like flute, sax. Then you got From Above, which I talked to once. I played it for, dubbed space rock, and I remember him even saying, he goes, "This is space rock. This is what I listen to." He goes, "When did this come out?" I go, 2000. He goes, "That's before everything I listen to," because people dig on us, and they, you know what I mean, like they're influenced by us. Even like as big as bands as Opeth. If you listen to Slither, the intro is the guitar solo from Aristotle's Lantern, like the full version on Legend that Mole wrote. So it's like all these bands, I could tell were being influenced, but like nobody would touch us for whatever reason. But yet people loved us. Like I said, in 2013, the band had 1.9 million hits on the website. I was standing next to Ross the Boss from Manowar and Jean-Luc, who was in the Plasmatics, who Jean-Luc wrote hit songs for like Cher and Kiss, I think, and other bands. When they heard that how much we had as an underground band, their jaws dropped. They were like, "Why doesn't so-and-so know about you? He would sign you." But I don't know. You know what I mean? I don't even know who you're talking about. I don't know the business side.
Right.
But, you know, I'm an artist. But like other than that, like if you want quality music, this is real music by real. I put the Spectrum Green one. That was an EP, my first band, Spectrum Green. You talk about Ozzy influence. The first song I ever wrote when I was 16 years old was a song called Man of a Thousand Faces. I don't have it up here yet, but if you look on YouTube for it, Spectrum Green, Man of a Thousand Faces. I wrote that when I was 16 years old. I've had people tell me like, wow, that's one way of getting out of the starting gate, because I wanted a horror movie-ish type feel, but it's an instrumental because, you know, Soldier couldn't fit lyrics in there, but it's like it has that feel. But yeah, so like this is real music by a real musician, engineered by Bob Both, you know, who worked with James Brown. Everything's done professionally. The early stuff was mastered by David Steele, who worked with Polygram, who worked with Kiss, Deep Purple, Rush, you know, did our mastering. My new songs I've done, Tim Boyce got awards with Disney, and he's done Broadway plays. So everything's always done professional. You know, the thing is
on the Patreon page, you could join it for like monthly too, right? And then you'll be posting more stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. $5.
I think that's a better thing. You know?
$5. You get five. Join for $5. Download all the music, then unjoin. I don't care. You know what I mean? Like, I just want to get the music because I did music Because when I was young, I know how music helped me through times, and it helps you. It's medicine. It's better
Absolutely.
and it's like I wanted to do that for other people, like as a living. That's another reason why I chose that music over law, because when you're a lawyer, you're gonna upset somebody one way or another. But like to do music, you're gonna, you know what I mean? You're making people happy, get people, turned on. And again, I wanted to be like the influences, like we mentioned. Early Genesis is another one. Oh, but then the EP, like I said, he said about the genres, just to wrap it up. And then you have Sleepy Hollow, the title track, which I wanted it to have the feel of Diary of a Madman. Like it has a very creepy, like eerie intro, but then tells the story of, Ichabod Crane, whatever. So like to me, like the Sleepy Hollow track was supposed to be like kind of like my Diary of a Madman. So that was that. But then Going Over was more of a heavier album. It was based around like the title track. I like it with the acting in between, which I said I have Errol Mars, who was in movies like Mahershala Ali, professional actor, and it's like each section is about a drug, but it's the style of music that was around with the drug. Like CD sales is like about marijuana, like 70s hard rock, and then Fat was funky first acid trip, has more of a 60s feel. Then Bad Reflection, like a speed metal, thrash metal feel, was cocaine, because like coke was big in the 80s. And then like the Crack section has more of like a new metal, rap metal feel, like from the 90s, and so on and so forth, and a bunch of individual tracks on the back. And if you like the old Cliff Burton Metallica era, give Mark Crastenham a listen. Mole wrote that. To me, especially the classical influence bridge we have in there, so remnant of that Master of Puppets era of Metallica. Like I think people would dig that if you haven't heard it yet. Lazarus was a teaser, all metal. We had a write-up for that. Some guy wrote, you get 4 decades of metal on one album on this, plus the Spectrum Green tracks were hidden tracks. That was a rehearsal with me, Triple B, Soldier, and Breezy. All it was meant to be was a reference that Soldier recorded. Somehow it got out. People were bootlegging it around New Jersey. And Triple B went to a party and some kid was playing it. He goes, wait a minute. He goes, that's my band. And he's like, yeah, it's great. He goes, that's a rehearsal tape. He goes, get it off. He's like, no. He's like, we love it. Like, so that's what awesome. We put as a hidden track, because that's raw. That's us playing. And you could hear, I would have my band's money tight. That band practiced 7 days a week. 7 days a week we practiced. And that's how I always wanted music to be. Like I took it seriously. Like people who know me personally always think I was a funny guy, joke around, this, that, and the other thing. It's like, but when it came to music, I always took music seriously. And it's like, if you want top shelf music, give it a listen. I mean, you can hear the songs on YouTube, most of them, except for Hawk Song, because that one's my new one. I'm not giving it for free anymore, because I sacrificed my life. I probably put 6 digits worth of money into my equipment, releases, promotion, everything that we've ever done. Right. And it's like, I think it's time for us to make some dough. You know what I mean? It's like, like go to the
definitely corner. So definitely just check out the Patreon page, right? You could join for free. You could also, join the monthly, or you could just download the song. Right. It's $5.
$5. It's like you're getting all this music for $5. And it's like I said, you're getting real music. It's like, I want to tell a story where, if you don't mind, because it's not
all the links that are on the Patreon page. Is that your links? YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and X. Is that all yours, or?
I don't know.
Okay. But anyway, you know what? I'm going to put up the. Here's the Patreon page. Just search for Joe Dell.
Yeah, on the Patreon page. Joe Dell. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I'm going to put up your YouTube page if they want to check that out.
Cool.
That's a good thing too.
I'm going to tell a quick story. If it's
Go ahead, go for it. And then we'll close it out.
Okay. This is when I realized, like, I felt really good about my playing, because you never know. I always had a low self-esteem since I was a kid, and everything reflects. So I work as hard as possible to play as I do. But I realized I must be pretty good, because I was doing Your Song, which I wrote for my second ex-wife. And I'm in the studio with Bob Both. Now, Bob had John Lennon sitting there asking to learn from him at one point in the early 70s. Like he engineered for James Brown. Like Bob has worked with top shelf musicians, So we're doing, Your Song. And at the end, there's a part where I'm doing a 3/4 with the left hand, and I'm doing 16th runs with the right over that. Like, which is difficult difficult to do. It's like, as far as keyboard, because the keyboard's the hardest thing to play because, real playing, because if you do one thing with one hand while the other's doing the other and keeping it in time. So Bob, we're listening to it, right? And I'm listening to the playback, we're in the booth. And then I see Bob has this weird look and he's staring at the monitors. And I look at him, I go, what is it, Bob? Because I love Bob. Bob is the greatest engineer ever. Let me tell you. He listens. You tell him what you want, he gives it to you. He's still available, Twain Recording. If you want to record something professional, go to Bob. He's the best. He's staring at the monitor. I go, Bob, what's wrong? I go, you hear something off? Because I'm all worried about,
Mm-hmm.
He goes, the timing's perfect. And that moment in time was the greatest compliment I've ever gotten.
Wow.
This man has worked with the upper echelon of musicians, musicians that I admired as a kid, and it's like the fact that even at his age, which I think was the late 60s, early 70s, that impressed him after all he's worked with, all he's listened to, all he's done. And I was like, that made me feel good. But I just wanted to tell that story.
All right, that's awesome. I think, hey, listen, anytime you get praise from somebody on top, like somebody above you, like musically and all that, that's...
Well, you're talking about a man that he influenced Zeppelin, Deep Purple, Black. I mean, you got to remember that era of James Brown. That's
unbelievable.
That was, because the grunge from Zeppelin, straight up James Brown, Bob both era. You know? So that guy being that impressed, I was like, and then he referred to me as a virtuoso when I was doing, I think, Hawk's song. So
that's pretty awesome.
I don't like talking about myself. Like, that's the problem. I'm not a business guy. Like, I can't be like, listen to me. But it's like, you have to, I guess I'm learning. So I have to say this stuff, because I don't like, to me, music's an art, and that's what it should be. Like, for you guys that like to enjoy, the legal cannabis, the stuff we've done, put some headphones on, listen to. I want to end with this, if it's okay, Chris.
Good, go for it.
Sleepy Hollow, even Spectrum Green. If you go to sleepyhollowband.com. I think you can still download the Spectrum Green album for free. The full album we did in proper. It's like, we were the only band. We started 2000. Whatever we did, we brought into this century. We're the only band like us, like the 70s. Like, every song is an individual song. You know what I mean? Everything has its own identity, its own sound. We don't repeat ourselves. And this is where we shot ourselves in the foot, because everything that comes out, and I can't blame the bands. Maybe these bands could do it, but the labels won't let them. Like, everything's got to, every song's got to sound like can't take chances. We can't, gamble. So the one good thing about us being, underground and self-produced, we were able to do that. And, like I said, it's the music we love, the music we grew up on. If you guys dig anything from the Beatles, the Stones, the Who, Zeppelin, Tull, Floyd, Rush, Priest, Scorpions, Van Halen, Ozzy, Maiden, Sabbath, Metallica, Guns N' Roses. If you like everything from that little era, it's all bundled into that one band, or, you know what I mean? And some of my music there. So, check us out. There's people who got us that really dig on us. And if you're looking for that, we find that the people who really love us are the ones who look for more. I've had people tell me personally, like, who I didn't know, I didn't even know this was out there. I didn't know they still made music like this. This is the stuff I'm hearing, because there's people who love music. That's why the old stuff still sells so much, but there's nobody the industry's not putting it out there. You got to find it like places like this, the little nooks and crannies, like bands like Sleepy Hollow or, Joe Dell, or whatever we're doing, to get the music that you guys love. Because a lot of people like myself get bored of it. Not bored, but, you get played out and you want that new thing. It releases dopamine like a drug. The same way a drug addict needs that next fix. The music lover, which that's my drug, you're looking for that music you never heard before. That song that, you're like, whoa, yeah, And it's like, if that's what you're looking for, come check us out, man. I think you'll dig it.
Yeah, absolutely. And then check out, obviously, the Patreon page as well. Just go to patreon.com, search for Joe Dell, and you'll find his page there. And you can check out all his music, purchase it there as well, or sign up for the monthly, and you could listen to all of them. And then, like you said, Sleepy Hollow Band, sleepyhollowtheband.com?
Sleepyhollowband.com.
Band.com. Okay, yeah. Check that out. And you got Joe Dell, and your YouTube page is what?
Is SHJOED. Like, remember Sleepy Hollow Joe Dell, SHJOED. and it's.
Okay.
And I also got a guest on that Metal Hall of Fame album, which the singer is Ripper, who's a Judas Priest. So I was asked to guest on. I'm like probably the lowest level guy on the whole album because you got Bruce Kulick from Kiss is on there. You got Jeff Tate from Queensryche. You got Satriani, Stevie Vai's on there. The DVD has Metallica, Judas Priest. So it's like all these big names. And I was asked, it was for charity, and I was asked to guest on that. So if you guys want to grab that, it's. Is
that on the Metal Hall of Fame page as well?
I think so. Yeah, somewhere in the shop or somewhere you can purchase that.
Right. So check out that, and remember all the shirts that he designed, including this one, he designed himself. So the guy, he's not just like when I describe you as an artist, like it doesn't cover it because music, it's music, it's art. It's also, you do, the intro music, outro music, and all that. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, somebody could come to you and say, I want either a song or I want art, and you could do it. You're amazing. Like,
thank you, Chris.
Yeah, you could do it all, and that's what's amazing about you. You're just an incredible artist, and I wish more people would listen to your music, and even see some of your art as well.
Those shirts, in a nutshell, Pat asked me because he likes my artwork. He goes, "Can you design a shirt for every state?" And I was like, for the Metal Hall of Fame. And I was like, I thought about it because he's doing a tour, Metal Across America.
Right.
And he's like, but he wanted me to implement the statue in every design. I did 53. I did all the states, plus I did Puerto Rico. I did a biker and Washington, D.C. I did it within a 2-month period. I had all 53 of them done. Every day, by grace of God, every day a new design coming to like an idea. And I didn't want it all to be, the statue, the Empire State Building, it's the statue. The Sears Building, it's the statue. You know what I mean? Like, it's like I want it to be like kind of witty. So like, for each one to have its own personality, and like Delaware, it's George Washington crossing the Delaware, with the statue, which I thought was, has a little bit of
that's awesome.
But it's like if you guys take a look, just go look at the designs themselves just to entertain yourself, because I think it's, I think they're fun. Like that one, Florida, the Epcot building, it's like, it's the statue, and instead of like, house here.
I think it's awesome, man. I listen, if someone said that to me, I would never be able to design each and every state. That's pretty amazing. Like Illinois.
Now that's the one you should have got, Chris, Isaiah, because you got
exactly.
Though it's Chicago, it's the Illinois, the old.
Yeah, if it was New York, I'm in.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding.
Oh, I know.
I think it's awesome.
I could have done like 30 for New York. You know that.
Yeah. Oh, forget it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. But awesome, man. Listen, thank you again for joining us, for filling in for your cousin Rob. Not many people could step in Rob's shoes, but you did really well, and I appreciate it, man. I love the stories. We could talk forever about Ozzy, about your music, about everything, but thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, listen, Chris, and I love your show, and it's a pleasure to be here, and I thank you for everything and all the kind words, Chris. Sincerely,
Thank you, man.
Everybody who joined in to watch TBK, always good seeing you, brother.
Yeah,
it's been wonderful. Thank you, Chris.
Definitely, man. And I'm looking forward to listening. You're coming on again, so because we got more music to talk about, but that'll be for another date for sure. And I'm looking forward to it. And thank you, everybody, for joining us. Remember, follow Joe. Go on Patreon. Check out Joe Dell right there. Get all the music you want from there. Follow us. Follow us on Twitter, on TikTok, and all that stuff at NYMLB Talk. And you could find us on YouTube. If you're watching us on YouTube, hit that sub button as well. And anyway, we will see everybody very soon.
And hi to Rob, who probably just won about 5,000 by now.
Okay. Yes, exactly. More than that. Take care, everybody.
Bye.